Hey, listen, everybody. This is Sam. I'm here with Pear and Fran.
Hello.
What's up?
It's been a long time, guys, since we've been together in here. This is Nintendo Voice Chat for February 5th, 2015. We are going to be talking about Amiibo today. We're going to be talking about a little bit of Splatoon, and then we're going to talk about what it was like covering Majora's Mask back in the day. You reviewed it, Fran.
Yeah.
Pear was here telling Fran to review it, so we'll get to that. I'm really excited about that conversation.
I'm here 15 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Was it 15 years now?
2001?
Yeah.
Oh, so cool. I'm really excited for that conversation. So, to kick it off, though, we have a huge Amiibo fan here in the room. It's not Fran. It's Pear.
What?
Pear Schneider has been, you have every Amiibo
Quite
now,
the
right?
collector.
I don't have every Amiibo. Like, I have everything pre-ordered, but, you know, my Sheik
That's
is
the
still
problem,
MIA.
though, right?
It's not coming. Sonic got pushed back. Mega Man's not in my hands. So.
Well, I have two that you will never have.
Which ones?
The gold and silver Mario Party Mario Amiibo.
You have these?
Kind of leaked this week. No, I built one right here, though. I put a little gold crown
If you're
on
listening to
Mario.
this, Sam did a terrible thing.
This
He
is
just put
my
a-
Amiibo, though.
He put like a golden crown and it was on a standard Mario one. It's not what this is, man.
Well, my spray paint is in the mail.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how I'm going to make my gold Amiibo. Anyway, gold and silver edition Amiibo. So they were kind of, it's essentially a leak on Nintendo's, there's a one sheet on Nintendo's site that somebody discovered. You know, people are always going in and exploring URLs on Nintendo's site and finding leaked stuff.
That's how I got started at IGN, actually.
Really?
Pretty much. I
That's
mean,
super cool.
sleuthing like
What'd you
the
find?
URLs and stuff. Well, back in
Search for the word dolphin, right?
Well, we figured out the name of GameCube when we were sleuthing
No kidding.
network registrations and all that stuff, because like Nintendo had registered like the Pokemon URL under another fake name that was tied to something called StarCube, and like
Really?
we can go back on that topic another day.
That's
Crazy,
really cool.
yeah.
No, I
always
love
talk about
that.
this stuff from
But
in
people
this-
are still doing this.
But in this case, it wasn't even that they were prepping like a consumer-facing page. They literally hosted two PDFs that were the CPSIA, it's Consumer Product Safety Improvement documents,
you
which
didn't know
is a
that.
requirement in the U.S. for toys, right? It was an act that was passed to make sure that
There's
toys
no
get
poison in them.
safer, especially with view of toys created abroad, and imported in the U.S. And so there were two documents that showed a gold color Mario and a silver color Amiibo,
and
or
from the Mario
platinum.
Party pose. Now, what I
Well,
think
it's
is
the one arm up kind of Yahoo
Yeah.
pose, right? Rather than the fireball one.
So there's two things about this that interest me. One is that I think like toy variants are, and however cynical they are to me now, like I really liked them when I was a kid. I remember like Spawn
man.
Toys had a cool toy variant that was really rare, and you see them in the store, and they just changed the color of them.
or even
I just think
an
that's really
exclusive
cool.
item, like it would go a long way.
Yeah. So the other thing I like about these is that I have a feeling that these are going to be the Club Nintendo Gold and Platinum rewards.
You think so? You think it's actually not a silver Mario, it's a platinum one?
It could be.
Yeah.
It's a good theory.
And let me just bring in.
But that would make me really sad because I only
then
have
you-
platinum. I don't have gold as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. So
That would be scary. I do not want.
we had a reader weigh in on this. He actually has a question for us. Now that Club Nintendo is on its way out, what do you guys predict will be this year's gold and platinum rewards? What would you guys like to see? I was surprised by both the number of physical and digital rewards they unleashed a few days ago, and now I'm totally stumped about this year's premium rewards.
Oh, I think I know what it could be. It could
That's
be a
from
gold and
Drowning-
silver
Yeah,
Mario.
let me get his
Drowning in Brownings.
What?
Drowning in Brownings.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it'd be
Don't
funnier if it
overanalyze
was
it.
drowning in brownies.
That's funny.
Because
Maybe
brownies are delicious.
he was when he wrote it, and it's a typo.
Whoa!
Yeah, look, it's possible. We don't know, right? It would be really evil because our addiction. It means we have to own
It's
every
the first
one
time
of
he
them.
admitted it.
No, I've admitted it from the
That's the
get-go.
first
I
step.
pre-ordered all the
me.
Mario Party Amiibos too, even though Bowser is basically the same. Like
Yeah,
I'm still
that's-
trying to figure out why he wasn't put in a different pose. But
And we'll get to his question in a second. But I did have one other question for you, Pear. What are you going to do about Rosalina?
what do you mean?
Did you get Rosalina?
I have Rosalina.
Because Chris Carl did.
Yeah.
I didn't know you. I hadn't seen yours yet. So you went to
So-
Target on Sunday morning.
No.
How'd you get
So
it?
I take my Amiibos out of out of the packaging
Yeah,
because
which is
I
why I
toys-
can't collect them is because I would not
toys
take them out.
Got
I
to be
don't have
played
the room.
with, and so I pre-ordered one from Japan because the pre-order experience was so
Oh, that's right,
frustrating.
you got
And
the Japanese
you weren't on the show when we talked about this, but I got taunted at Target when I wanted to pre-order one. They
Did you
said,
really?
They said we only accept pre-orders for games, not for dolls. That's what they said. So I was like, screw it, I'm going to pre-order it from abroad, and you can get Rosalinas from Japan for a couple bucks more, or from Europe or Australia. And so I pre-ordered that one. And then a nice NVC listener apparently also sent one from Australia. So
really?
I'm swimming in Rosalinas, man.
Well, that's great.
I'll make sure to redistribute
Chris
the wealth
Carl
internally.
went to Target on Sunday and grabbed one, which I thought was adorable.
That's very cute.
Yeah,
Your brother.
We should have my brother. We should have Chris on the show at some time to talk about his experience doing that.
But you're asking about Rosalina for a specific reason,
yeah,
right?
because there's a Target exclusive for Rosalina, and Rosalina also, and we knew that, but what we didn't know was that apparently they're going to replenish most Amiibo on an ongoing basis, based on a kind of another leak from Target documents, but. I don't think Rosalina is going to be restocked.
Well, that's the document said it will not be replenished, right?
Yeah.
And we have there's a fan on our NVC Facebook group. You guys are awesome. Who works at Target as well, and he said, obviously there are still a lot of Rosalinas in distribution centers that come in. Yeah. So even though new orders from Japan will come in, there is still some that will come to store shelves just based on distribution in the U.S.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is going to be a rare Amiibo for sure. And there are others that were mentioned as well, right?
Yeah. So as ones that won't be not as ones that won't be restocked, they're specifically mentioned that Toon Link and Bowser will be replenished on an ongoing basis.
Those were the easiest to find and the earliest to come in. But Mega Man, Sonic, King Dedede, Ike, those might be a little harder to find. And we've seen that with the last waves of Amiibos.
Well, they say they won't be available in Target, but those were available in all retailers. That wasn't exclusive.
They definitely have, for whatever reason, I think Nintendo in advance decided which Amiibo they would make a bunch of and which ones they would only make a few of. And obviously it's based on market research, right?
Yeah.
We assume where they say how many of these do we need to stock. And, some characters, like, we may love Marth and Ike, but the majority of Nintendo fans have no idea who those characters are. Smash Brothers players will know.
You never played Super Rosalina Sisters?
Yeah, that's funny.
That was my favorite.
Giolina
Sisters.
Exactly. Did you you didn't get into Amiibo, and I've heard your reason, and I haven't really either. I collect games, I collect a bunch of stuff. I'm not too into packaged toys because I have to keep them in the package and I don't have the room. I'm kind of wondering what this is gonna look like a year from now.
That's what I was saying.
No, I want to get into it. It needs to be really easy for me to get into it at this point, though. I'm not into the waiting in lines. I'm not into the pre-order pandemoniums.
This is a good topic, though. I think. Explain to me why you do it. Now, let me first say, when I was, core to Nintendo coverage, I collected all kinds of stuff. I had all the limited edition Super Famicom GBA cards.
Those are so pretty.
Mini ones. I still have them in a box here. They're awesome. Loved it. Of course, I was it was part of my coverage.
What is
here,
the Pixel series? Those Game Boy games also that were the crazy, simplistic, geometric Game Boy puzzle games. They're called Pixel Generation.
Oh yeah, I remember
I didn't
those. The minis, right?
they're
little
so
mini games.
pretty.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I totally get into stuff like that. But man, it takes a lot of time. And then all you do, you put them in a box or you put them on a shelf. Is that why you're collecting?
Well, so importing is one thing, though, right? And I get excited about that.
Simple.
But when things are distributed in America and they should be easy to get and they're not, that makes me really upset.
So
I'm not into that.
There are a couple factors, and we talk about Amiibo a lot on this show.
Yeah,
which,
we haven't been on
it's been Amiibo Central, but
I'm sorry.
There are multiple reasons. One, I thought many of them looked really cool. I really wanted to own them because we are in the West. We are underserved with Nintendo collectibles.
It's true. There's
you can buy you a giant, Majora's Mask. There's like a skull kit you can get from First 4 Figures, or you can get Link on Epona, but those are like $400.
You can go to Chinatown and get knockoff plushies of all of your favorites.
But in Japan, you can get a ton of this stuff.
But they don't look right? And the Amiibo designs actually look right. And then there's the bonus of actually using them with a game. And that was, of course, the initial attraction, was the promise of using them with games. Then you scan one into Mario Kart, and there's a giant screen, and it has one thing unlocked, and the rest are not unlocked. And that's when I start to get nervous, and I got to complete that screen, right?
Totally.
And so then I'm like, all right, I'll get the others.
As a recovering guide writer,
totally.
you have to complete a game.
Yes.
Yep.
So exactly, once you get that invested, you become a completionist, and that's normal. It's totally cool.
And many of our listeners went through the same thing, where they listened to the first episode and they're like, "Why are you freaking out over these Amiibo?" Then they get two, and then they're like, "Oh man, isn't that one rare? Okay, I'll get that one." Then they go back home and they're like, "What? I didn't." And,
it's the fear of missing out too.
That's absolutely it. And
Well, to each his own, and more power to the collectors out there. I think collecting is
really
super addictive
collecting.
for me. I love it. I love what you guys are doing. I love seeing your collections. Just because it's not for me doesn't mean I'm not following it.
And I collect
totally
to
think
display.
it's cool.
I don't collect to sell. I mean, some of the rare Amiibo will go for $60. I'm sure Rosalina eventually, will go over 100 unless there are just so many out there
it could go way
that's
down,
plentiful,
though.
right?
It's very risky to collect to resell.
But you need to, to be fair, they are more plentiful in other territories, so you need the US edition. There are no differences between the actual Amiibo inside the box. They're exactly the same, down to the writing underneath the pedestal.
I think that's really cool. So same factories producing them all.
Exact same, like,
and if you're
IG
taking them out of your
numbers.
packages, then nobody would ever
Nobody would ever know.
See, that's very different from like collecting old Nintendo cartridges or something. In each region, even no matter what, you can tell what a Famicom cartridge is, and it's from a region, and it's very different.
Yep.
Hey.
So to get back to Drowning and Browning's question,
this one's rare, by the way.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have the writing on the bottom.
And I put it together.
Are you serious? I didn't know that. Give me that.
To get back to Drowning and Browning's question, he's asking about what we think the final Club Nintendo rewards for Platinum and Gold members will be, and I want to open that up. We just saw this week the final Club Nintendo rewards, which are super cool.
You saw them, or you heard that there's a website you could maybe get into and see them?
It took all week. Now, I was always able to see them. I was never able to register more coins or actually get to them. But my two favorite ones are the Majora's Mask side bag, which I believe you got that one, right?
I did. I get the messenger bag, the Majora's Mask bag.
And then I really like the puzzle, and I'm trying my darndest to get to that puzzle because it's a cool. I love the concept art for Majora's Mask. It has like really thick black lines, and this is like I presume comes in like a big puzzle box, like you get an old puzzle. I just really like the sound of that.
I really wanted it, but I just didn't have enough coins left.
Oh, yeah,
like
it would be
after
really hard
all
to get
these
to that.
years, I just didn't have enough. But I did get the pouch, the 3DS pouch. There's a Zelda themed pouch, which could be janky. We'll see what it looks like. Got that one. I got the cartridge holder. I did not get the Animal Crossing cards, though. I really
I'm
wanted
wondering,
those.
there's a Club Nintendo calendar for this year.
The stand-up?
Yeah, it's just a little stand-up calendar. I don't know what it looks like inside or anything, but I think that thing might be cooler than it's letting on.
Yeah.
My favorite thing from 1988 was there was a Nintendo Power calendar that came with Nintendo Power, and you could put it up, and it was like the Power calendar for the year.
Yeah.
And it has Mario in all the costumes throughout. He's like wearing a turkey suit for Thanksgiving, and he's wearing like a cowboy suit for Halloween. Which
Didn't you do a Let's Read of one of these calendars? Am I misremembering?
Of a Nintendo Power. I can't remember if it had that poster in the issue.
No, my son showed me. There's a YouTuber out there who went through all the
the
pages, and there's some ridiculous pictures in the Nintendo Power calendars, like with made-up text sometimes too. Right?
Absolutely.
Is it sad that I kept my Super Metroid strategy guide, the official one, because it has a centerfold of Samus?
Is she in her suit?
Yeah, she's in her suit.
Okay.
But I do still have it. You can do like a fold out of it.
That's very cute.
I just bought the Majora's Mask strategy guide, the official Nintendo one, because I didn't ever own it, and I thought I would need it for this, but they changed so much stuff that actually was.
Oh, the class. You bought the classic one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But which I would need it anyway because it is great. As I said, the concept art. So I think that I don't know if they're going to do gold and platinum rewards. I would imagine they would go with these Amiibo for them. I'm wondering what they're going to do. More interesting to me is what they're going to do with Club Nintendo in the future, or if they're going to have any rewards program. I have a feeling it's going to be mainly digital download-based things.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting smaller, if any, obviously, right? I mean, isn't that the whole problem? Is they can't keep running something?
Yeah,
like this.
maybe.
I think the intel they got out of the program wasn't good enough. So like the whole survey thing, they kind of don't need it anymore, or they can get it in a cheaper way, right? And yeah, probably the feedback you get wasn't as great.
X, click, 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 QWERTY, click, click.
Gaming website.
It's true. Yeah.
No, but I think there will be something, as you've seen, with PlayStation, obviously with subscription plans, with Xbox Live adding more and more to it, and rewards for actually playing. Nintendo will have something, but I think they want to get to that unified account, and hopefully that'll happen soon.
Yeah,
but there's some cool stuff you can get for 250 coins. You can get Earthbound finally. So if you've never played it, you can get it for 250 coins.
Yeah, or you can spend 250 real coins, and by that I mean dollar coins, on an original copy.
Yeah, but why if you can get it for free?
Because
like,
the cartridge
by the way,
smells good.
If you want to log into the site, I was able to get in. Don't get scared away when you see Evil Mario saying, sorry, the site is broken. Just keep hitting refresh. After a while, you get in. It'll take a couple of tries. For whatever reason, Nintendo's site works better on Safari than on Chrome. Just be persistent. It'll work eventually.
Cool. Well, there's clearly a lot of Nintendo rarities out right now, and just like collectible things from Nintendo. And as you were saying, we've had a lack of that over the years, and I just think that's really exciting that you can participate in Nintendo fandom by buying little tchotchkes and stuff. I love that. You used to have to go to the Nintendo World Store once a year and pick up their stuff there, and it's just cool that you don't have to do that anymore.
Yep.
Yeah, and it is interesting that I know we're off this topic basically now, but merchandising, like you'd think there would be a lot more of it from just how much they have, but there's not a ton of options.
Seriously, I would buy collectible keychain Game & Watches, man.
Totally.
Just like there's so much in Nintendo's past that
was
could
my
bring back.
favorite platinum reward that they did.
Mine
Not platinum
too.
reward,
Yeah,
but reward that they did was they remade their Game & Watch. And actually, I really highly recommend everybody check out the Best of Club Nintendo article that we wrote. It has some foreign territory stuff. Club Nintendo, when I first heard about it, they were doing a Famicom Super Famicom NES. It's a Super NES in Japan controller for Wii U that you can just plug right into your Wii and just play virtual console games on a perfect replica Super Nintendo controller. And they gave that away in Japan. I was like, why isn't this here? And that never came here, but it made me so jealous. And they also gave a platinum reward out once, which was a remote control of a Wii controller that just controlled your TV before the Wii controller or the Wii was in the stores. So you could basically get a mock-up of the Wii controller.
That's really cool.
Just control it. Just turn your TV power on and off.
Fran will make one in his Easy Bake Oven for you.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about the clay GameCube controller right now.
I love that.
We've done that too
often. My favorite IGN project. We're going to get to some IGN memories in a bit.
Oh, God. All right.
So, Splatoon is an upcoming multiplayer game from Nintendo that happens to feature the very namesake of this podcast, Nintendo voice chat, in the news this week. There's no voice chat.
I was just going to say, quite the opposite, Sam.
The news features the very name.
Yeah, the news features it. So we started this podcast, or it was started by other people, including Matt and Mark and Per, back when we did not have voice chat for the Wii for games that really needed it. Yep. And there was online voice chat. Well, Animal Crossing had it.
Oh, that's right. That was the whole thing of what it was about.
So there was some time where the DS and the Wii had a bunch of multiplayer games. They didn't have voice chat. But you got to remember in the context of this that Xbox Live was all the rage. And everybody was going home after work at night in the IGN office and playing Xbox Live games and chatting. And so it was a big deal when Nintendo didn't have chat. Now, games like The Conduits were still to come out. Metroid Prime 3 we might have multiplayer. It didn't. Yep. So, it was really expected to have voice chat. Now, it is disappointing to hear that there won't be in-game voice chat in any context, in any multiplayer game, but this is specifically from a Famitsu article, which is translated to say that you won't be able to communicate with people you've been randomly matched with.
Well,
that makes sense for
I think but there's
policy.
some open question. I don't think it has any voice chat. I think that's the news.
That's absolutely right.
You will not be able to talk with people when you're in the match. Mm-hmm. That's it. And that mirrors the setup in Smash Brothers. It mirrors the set in Mario Kart. We assumed in Smash it's because of latency and all that, but it just seems to be that Nintendo is not interested in solving this issue. And there are lots of people out there when news like this comes out, they say, it's not a big deal. Why are you getting so upset about it? Well, it is a team-based game.
Yeah.
This is a team-based game. The reason why voice chat was an issue for me in Mario Kart, but not that big of one, is because you are matched randomly with other players, you don't need to hear them. I didn't play that much with friends, and when I did play with friends, it'd be like with my daughter on the same couch playing against others online. Sure. So you had that fun element. In a team-based game, you want to be able to talk to your team and say, you're manning that tower, you're doing the paint splatters over there, and to not have this is really, really ridiculous. Mm-hmm. It is. We are way overdue for solid voice chat in Nintendo games. It's not. It's not. There's no excuse.
Yeah, honestly,
the Xbox did it.
Right.
The Xbox.
Yeah, honestly, I think you had said it best. I don't think it's that it's as general as they're not interested. It's just that in the list of stuff, and that's how Nintendo is. They're like, we're not dealing with it right now. So, and they never built this, and so now all they've got is this, and that's unfortunate. To
Didn't
your point.
GameSpy build this for them?
Yeah. They did. And we had Todd on, and he explained that, GameSpy presented a voice chat option to Nintendo very early on, and they were just very worried at the time about kids being able to interact with strangers. But that's not what's happening here anymore, because now they have a friend system. It's much easier to find your buddies online. You can block communication with strangers, And in Mario Kart, you can talk to your friends in the lobby. So they have taken steps, but they have not yet figured out how to enable it in a fast-paced game. And I think it comes down to netcode. And yes, that it's the last thing on their list. And maybe in Japan, it's just not that big of a deal, to people playing in Japan. And this is where I think NCL and the Japanese development studios are doing a great disservice to the West. Where that kind of game is established.
I really think the 600-pound gorilla in the room, though, is that this is a family. Yes, it is. You're right. Let's just end it there. No, this is a family-based shooter that they're really trying to make family oriented. It's super cutesy for kids to play. I can't imagine that they would want to ever go back to the idea of having people allowing strangers to talk to each other.
Well, not
games.
strangers, but that's
completely been against that.
When you jump into Titanfall, you don't hear everybody by default, right? Like you have to, in all these team-based games, you have to have people in your chat and you have to enable it. So that's not the issue.
There's a very easy way to solve this stuff too, right? Like it's too easy to say they're worried about that because you can build a game that has a setting that you turn off the option, right, to have chat. And in a game like Destiny or whatever, there's Fireteam chat. You can opt in or out. But right, imagine an adult parental layer where you can just not allow your kids to do it. It's very easy to solve.
The Wii U has also parental controls.
Yeah, they have parental controls. So it's like you can't make the excuse that they're worried about that. Even if they are, it's easy to solve for. It's that on their list of things, it's just not important.
No, I totally agree with you. And
which is a mistake because actually Splatoon's pretty cool.
And the game, I don't think it destroys the game, right?
No,
it'll still be fun to play. It'll definitely have really fun local multiplayer. It's 4v4, by the way, right? So it's teams of 4 playing against other teams of 4. But that to me is the perfect size for a group to be interacting and talking.
Oh yeah, because there's not too much chatter.
It's not 16 players and all this cacophony of people yelling stuff.
That wasn't the reason given in the interview necessarily, but they did mention in this interview that that it was kind of funny. They said with more than 4 players, the additional people didn't have much effect on the battle. So this game seems to be fine-tuned for 4v4.
I think that's totally fine. Like if it is a solid, great 4v4 experience, that's awesome. They do have some features, right? Like on the gamepad, you'll be able to see a map. And so as a player in a team, things aren't going very well here on the map, and so you run there and try to help.
It's not the same.
How do I tell you, hey, don't go there, I'm going to take care of it, right?
No,
like,
it's
that's
absolutely
the issue.
not the same. And actually, like a good recent parallel, and everyone knows I played too much Destiny, but they have Skirmish, which is 3v3, if I'm remembering the mode right. And so it's 3v3. Like, you can absolutely play it with random people and you don't have to talk to them. But, man, when you just talk to one person, changes everything.
Really?
And I know, oh, yeah. Like, you go from struggling. So when there was the PlayStation outages, nobody could talk to each other because it was all messed up. And I had to keep hopping into Fireteam chat. And eventually, after literally it was hours, somebody finally hopped in. And I went from, like, lose to we just started to dominate. So, I mean, you can really... You can say it works. Man, does it work well when you're communicating with people.
No, for sure.
And I think people know that. It doesn't destroy the game. It'll be fun. But not allowing that layer, especially it's 2015, guys, like that's pretty. A 4v4 game should have it.
Again, I think it's culturally, Japanese development teams are just a little bit behind on the kind of team play communication aspect. And obviously there are games like MMOs that come out of Japan that do feature communication features, text chat, and all that kind of stuff. So it's I'm making a sweeping generalization here, but like that kind of multiplayer culture and co-op culture online is just not as developed over there. I wasn't expecting this game to have voice chat. Like honestly, I thought they were going to do the thing with lobbies again. So I'm not surprised.
Mario Kart
but
style.
It is so disappointing for a team game. It just limits the replay for me, and that's a shame.
Yep. Well, let's leave it at this. I think
the
game's going to be good.
And let me say, to finish it up, it's in the final stages of development. That was also something that came out of this interview. They're aiming for worldwide release, which is kind of cool, and which has been happening with most Nintendo games. No announcement.
Still open-ended?
Yep.
I thought they said it was...
And here's another cool thing. They plan on supporting it post-release, which means
that's great.
Some DLC patches and stuff.
New downloads, yeah.
Well, I'm excited, but let's hope the multiplayer mode isn't a Nintendo Voice splat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. See, that's why we have Fran on.
Yes, sir.
Did you write that by yourself, or did you?
It's very complicated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's very nice. Yeah, I'm still excited to play more of this game. The more I see of it, the more interested I am in it.
Cool. So this week Majora's Mask 3D has been going around the office like wildfire, and everybody's playing it. And it's great. It's coming out really soon. It's coming out next week for everybody. I'm really excited. I know you, Fran Mirabella, haven't had a chance to play the remake yet, right?
Wow.
But you're here because...
I've taken a look at it. I've played it, but not played it.
And our review is up, our video review is up, and we did a great review conversation with Marty Sleva, who did the review. So I'm in that. And I wanted to carry the conversation to Per Schneider and Fran Mirabella, because they covered Majora's Mask back in the day here at IGN. It was the first thing I remember reading about at IGN was Majora's Mask coverage, and I obsessed over it, like early coverage. So I want to talk with you guys a little bit about what it was like to cover that game after Ocarina of Time got a 10, and everybody was looking forward to it so much, and then talk about the review. So let's kick it off with right after Ocarina came out, there was a 64DD rumor going around that there'd be a new Zelda game for that.
Zelda Gaiden, right?
Zelda Gaiden. There was actually a different name for it,
so
too.
we talked a little bit about that on NVC, but there was the Uda Zelda project. So that was what became Master Quest. That was designed for the 64DD. So you would own the Ocarina of Time cartridge, and then you would buy this add-on on disc, and it would remix the game world and do like mirror it and change the item locations, all that kind of stuff. So that was the idea of Nintendo doing DLC that's on a disc, right? Like you buy DLC on a disc. Really cool, ahead of its time. Never came out on the 64DD. I think we did a Let's Play a while ago where if you put Ocarina of Time, the Japanese version, in with a 64DD attached, it actually says insert disc.
Yeah,
so the hooks and all of that stuff was in there for this game.
And it was released eventually in the United States on a compilation disc, and then in Ocarina of Time 3D.
Yeah, and Urawaza is a Japanese term. It's a hidden Easter egg in a video game, right? It's something cool that's hidden. And this Uda thing was supposed to be another Zelda, so like a different take on the same game. But that was different from Zelda Gaiden, which is the game that we got with Majora.
Which the original screenshots that IGN had that I remember seeing had a picture of the Deku Scrub Palace, and there was like a Deku Scrub course in the distance.
Yeah, I think I remember
and that was one of the earliest things, and you could tell there's like little Deku flowers everywhere.
That turned into the maze, right? The new game has a maze where you have to avoid being detected.
Yeah, that was the earliest thing I saw. Do you guys remember if there was an E3 presentation on this or anything between then and when you found out about the actual name?
This game was talked about like in May of '99, which was about a year and a half before is when it started. And yeah, I think it first came out of Japan with maybe these screens. And it was mostly just that they're going to use, that's what I recall, is there was talk or a rumor, I don't know if it was official at the time, but they were going to take the engine that existed and build a new Zelda, very quickly. Quickly.
The one-year Zelda game,
Yes.
With the same resources and same team, right? Or a
smaller
team?
Smaller team.
This was a time where Nintendo wanted to crank out games faster because, there was also lots of criticism about the N64 not having enough games, right?
And so the gap between A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time was so long. Which is a short now, but it seemed like a long at the time because it spanned technically 3 consoles because there's no Virtual Boy Zelda,
so that's,
which we never got. Come on,
thanks for counting that.
And that's where they started the concept of Gaiden, meaning side story, right? If you know Ninja Gaiden, it's like it just means a side story.
When's the main plot of Ninja coming?
Right? Like, yeah.
When are we gonna find out what happens to Ninja?
That was
I want to Raiden Gaiden, but the whole point was reuse the game world and do a side quest. And I think you just ran into the issue that Nintendo is way too ambitious to do something like that. I think they, just like with Link Between Worlds, it's like, oh, let's remake Link to the Past. And then the end product you get is like, wait, you redid everything, right? That's what happened here.
The same thing happened with the Game Boy Link's Awakening was supposed to be a port of Link to the Past to the Game Boy. And they're just like, oh, let's make it.
The more you saw of the game, the more you realized it was a different game. It was definitely, all the coverage came out of Japan. It was almost like, they were like, NOA had virtually no information of this title early on. We kept on asking, and there just wasn't anything there.
So when did you guys find out the name and kind of think like, what was the reaction to that? Because it was a really strange Zelda
Mask
game
of Majora.
It was Majora. No, it was like Mujula when they first translated the title. It was Mujula. Majora. That was the first, it was Romaji, like Japanese characters, and it was translated to that. And then, and we're like, what the heck is this thing? And it looked really Indonesian, the kind of mask styles and everything. And so we were looking up Indonesian, influence and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, trying to match what the mask might have been from?
Because, it looked like, many of the kind of the masks that
What was odd? You didn't really know. The style was weird, definitely.
So did you play the game before it came into the IGN offices?
Yeah, we
at
saw it
events. Yeah.
We saw it at an event before.
God, you can't ask us about
Okay.
ancient
No, this is
history.
a fair question.
This is 24 years ago.
It wasn't that.
25 years ago.
Look, yeah, the game came out in October because it was like a Halloween game of 2000. It was definitely at that E3.
Yeah.
So we absolutely saw it there. I think maybe that was it, though. They kept it so close to their chest, we didn't get to see it. I think we did play it at that E3.
They did not do the same thing as with Ocarina of Time, where they came out guns blazing and they said, hey, this is revolutionizing kind of 3D game and how you fight in 3D. They did not tell that story. It was almost kind of, you could sense it was a smaller game. And so the hype for it was very low, actually, when it came out.
The byproduct was NOA, to your point, didn't totally understand it.
No.
Because they were even kept at arm's length, like you were saying. And I think they were trying
That's Nintendo of America. For
Nintendo of America. And I think they went through what happens a lot sometimes with these projects is they're like, how are we going to market this thing? Like, it's this weird Nintendo game with masks that, right, it was
freaky
very odd
too.
and scary, which was something Nintendo wasn't totally prepared for at the time.
So what they did was they slapped a hologram on it. They made it gold.
Right.
It's cool, man. The card.
It made the gold card.
So did you guys get a Japanese copy of this in the office, or did you just stick with the American one?
We did. I have two versions of it. One was sold with the memory expansion.
Yep.
So there was a Japanese edition with a bigger box.
Now that
with
didn't
the memory
happen here.
expansion.
Donkey Kong 64 came with the memory expansion.
Yes.
Yep.
That was May of 2000, I think, or April. Or whatever.
Banana yellow cartridge.
And then I have the other edition, which was the single box version, the Japanese one. And I finished the game in Japanese before playing it in English. So my Japanese was good enough to understand what was going on, but the game system had us stumped at first, right? You're like, how do I escape the Deku Shrub
I was playing
state?
it with Pear.
That was so weird. We're like, we don't want to be this damn Deku Shrub. We want to save. How do you save this game, right?
Yeah.
Which a lot of this stuff is fixed now for 3DS, right? You saved by traveling back in time. And we gotta be mindful, by the way, of spoilers that we don't go too far because a lot of people have not played.
Yeah,
this
well,
game.
I was gonna say I think that's why it's more popular around the office, like you find with a number of N64 GameCube games. Like people were so PlayStation at the time.
Yep.
But man, this was a good game, and I think it got overlooked because it was this weird Gaiden thing that they knew of. But man, they're finding out now that they missed out.
And people really like the grown-up Link part too, right? Like everybody loved the badass Link. In hindsight, he doesn't look all that badass, but like growing up and riding the horse. And so this game, when the answers were like, "Oh, is grown-up Link in this?" and the answer immediately, really early on, was no. You know, I almost feel like,
a big concern.
and like not to give away the ending, but there's something in that game that almost feels like they added it just to give like us, complainers,
check out,
a cooler Link.
For the people that do want to see spoilers and like hear about all the cool changes made in this game, we have a knockout. The most 100% comprehensive article on all the changes in the new Majora's Mask 3D, and there are so many of them. And our Wikis team and also a bunch of Wiki contributors, and you can join those Wiki contributors, have been really keeping up on what changes are in this game. And man, there's a really cool one involving what you're talking about.
We've got a really good Amiibo Wiki too, by the way. It's been kept up to date. If you look for Amiibo IGN Wiki.
If you can only buy them through it.
I added a section with tips on how to find rare Amiibo. Please add on to it if you've got good tips, but I have a link to basically how you can track Amiibo through an in-store tracker. You know, the old trick of always look in the Disney Infinity section. Like I just saw somebody on the NVC IGN Facebook group found a character in that section again. Just like a little link sitting there. No, it was Rosalina, I think. That's right.
So little Fran Mirabella,
little Deku Mirabella.
Recent hire at IGN.
Yeah, I had only been hired in August.
Yeah, so in fall of 2000. This review came to your desk, which I think is so cool.
Oh, man. I mean, it was huge for me because I was like, same thing. I was reading IGN because of all the Ocarina of Time news and some Mario 64 and stuff before that. But,
we gave the rookie the Zelda game?
But no, you know how this happened. Pear definitely remembers this. We were playing it a lot. Matt Casamassina at the time was playing too, but it was like pretty daunting, and he ended up playing like a lot of San Francisco Rush and Beetle Adventure Racing and stuff too.
It was a big
ball. That was right. He can't follow a storyline. He needs instant gratification.
Matt loves Zelda. He was so excited for this game, super into reporting on it. He really wanted to review it actually, but to describe, like Matt is more, you remember Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and start, select, reset, start, select, reset. Like, that's what he likes to do. And so that's why all these other games, like, he loves to do. But anyway.
So not play the Song of Time reset, play the Song of Time reset.
Oh, I drove him crazy.
Oh, yeah, as funny as it is that the game resets. But anyway, we were all playing it, and I think he realized after about the first, like, 5 hours, he was like, oh, my goodness, like, this is a long game. But he had a lot of other stuff going on, too. And so he's like, you can review it. And I was like, what? And I think the, like, there was no big game before that I reviewed. Maybe Pokemon Puzzle League, if that came out before that.
That was a good game.
But in any event, I was stoked. But man, the pressure of reviewing Majora's Mask after Ocarina of Time, like I was that guy, and I had been there for 3 months.
You came up with a novel solution to it, which was to give it a 9.9.
That was not because I was following in the shoes of a 10. Never.
Yeah, no, I thought we were just going to count down 0.1 points after that for Zelda games.
Exactly. No, but it was a ton of pressure. But it's funny. I talked to people. It's so funny. Like, you underrated it. Like they were like, it was a better game, and it's interesting to that's I think how my
you
review
gave it
went,
such a generous, great review, and you just were so in love with it that there's no underrating involved.
It was one of the definitely at the time, understanding what it was in the world of Zelda was very confusing. A scary, weird game that kept resetting on you, and with this storyline that really was alternate universe, it was very bizarre.
A game system that's never been replicated like that is just so weird.
But the coolest part about it, and why I really gave it, I think, a lot of credit on top of the fact that it was still Zelda in 3D at the time, which it was only the second game to do that, really, right? There was nothing between Ocarina of Time and that, right? Because of
there's
that,
some
it was
GBA.
cool.
There's the GBA, the Game Boy Color games that same year.
Nothing like
that's
that.
right. But anyway, what really struck me about it was that Nintendo took these chances, which they were not prone to do, and they built it in this universe that, I mean, everybody loves Zelda. Like, it's such a cool universe, and the puzzles, the way that it makes you think, and then they twisted all that, and they did some really cool stuff that I felt we hadn't seen, and it was for them to take that risk too. I thought was just awesome for the fans and the community.
Yep.
So like when some stuff happens in this game, especially put yourself back in 2000, you're like, whoa, that is so cool, and also continue to watch the world, end over and over and over again, which is a cool concept.
I was explaining in a review discussion that there's a lack of dungeons in this game, which is fine because the dungeons that are there, one of them is horrible, but the other 3 are great. But it's really interesting that there's a centralized clock town that is a living town that simulates real people's schedules, and they're actually moving through their days. And now it seems a little simplistic when I go into it and see it, but it seemed really impressive at the time that I could spy on a person throughout the day and solve a puzzle that way.
But see, here's where it's simplistic and where it isn't, right? You play a game like, let's pick Skyrim. You go into any of the towns, and it's bustling with people. Yeah. There are people doing all sorts of stuff, and actually the AI can get into fights, like a wolf can attack somebody. And, you may never see the same thing twice. What Majora is, though, is this controlled thing where on day one, this guy does this thing. At night, this grandma walks through this section of town. Yeah. And as you explore the world, you see the patterns, and you're like, okay, that guy is always there at this time. Yeah. So if I need to talk to him, I got to make sure to remember that he's over there. And, that's the brilliance of it. It's like Back to the Future, where the same scene happens over and over. It's Groundhog Day and all that.
Day, exactly.
It's so cool.
So we really go into this, again, in our review discussion, which I highly recommend you check out there.
Review commentary.
Review commentary
discussion. It's not a spoiler heavy. I didn't listen to it.
No, it's not. It actually talks about changes, though, in one segment of it, but we give a spoiler warning ahead of that.
We always do.
I will say that what we didn't talk about in that, which I just wanted to touch on briefly, is that I believe the new 3DS, where I played on both. I played most of this on my 3DS, which is a launch 3DS. It's the new 3DS adds a huge element to this game, and I really, really think that if you're going to get a new 3DS, get this to try it out. Adding that little camera, the camera nub, really allows you to experience Majora's Mask in a cool way. You could just go to because the graphics are nice in this. They overhauled it.
Oh yeah.
Just going somewhere and just spinning the camera around, or being able to see. There's a lot of problems you get into with Z targeting, where something's above you and you can't Z target it. So it's actually really nice to just be able to slam the camera up to it and grab it.
Yeah,
it makes a huge difference.
I constantly use the camera, and there are certain sections in the game, like the swimming parts, for example, where more camera control is super helpful. And I will say that's, I think the 3DS version is wonderful in the way it's improved. It's just the Bomber's Notebook, all these kind of areas that are tweaked are certainly better. The one area that I didn't like the tweaks are with the swimming, where the original game you had a boost for speed swimming and then an attack, and in this one basically they're the same. And so, you are to swim fast, you're running out of magic energy, which I just don't like that, right? Nope. Like, it is not fun to swim slow, and therefore making you consume magic power was a mistake, I think. But
there's all kinds of stuff. Like,
it's tolerable.
The changes that are there are so worth your time.
Yeah, everything else is great.
And then making it portable makes it a totally playable game too, because you can save it, easily and clamshell your game. I just love that.
That's the thing. Like, there are way more. You can save with the owl statues, which were introduced with the U.S. release. The original game didn't actually have them in the Japanese version.
Frustrating.
It was. You had to say. You had to travel to save. It was annoying. And then they have new save points everywhere in different spots. So it is definitely it is a much more playable game, and it's a great game too.
Yeah, if you haven't played, maybe you're gonna ask that question.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, you have to play Majora's Mask if you haven't. It's definitely worth playing. Whether you're revisiting it, like now that I'm really thinking about it, I'm like, I have to go back and replay this. I want to see.
There's so many things you forgot. Like, I forgot a lot from the time that I last played it, and I was just amazed at the clever little things, like you walk into the inn and the lady says, all the rooms are gone, and like how you solve that into getting a room. It's just so clever.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just talked a little bit about how A Link to the Past, that Majora's Mask, you've been told before, was underrated.
Yeah, some people.
One of our readers has written in to talk about A Link to the Past being overrated.
What?
Yeah. And let me just read a portion of this letter. Overhyped, overrated. That's kind of the same term, I believe. Now, I will say, Jose handed me these notes at the last minute. He couldn't make it to the show today. He did not include the name of this reader. So I love you, man or lady. Thank you so much for writing in. I'm going to read your question. Let me know who you are, and maybe we'll be able to give you a shout next time.
I'll find him while you read it.
Yeah. He or she says, it's great to hear from another big Ed fans out there. I want to say, however, that most critics in the game industry seem to bow at the feet of the Link to the Past. I went back and played every Zelda game and thought Link to the Past was way overhyped. The gameplay and world were great, but there are some things that are off. For example, you mentioned that in Majora's Mask, the Song of Time variations are out of the way. But you seem to forget that the Quake medallion was in the farthest reaches of the map, far away from any story-based area, not to mention little to no help in finding an item that you need to complete the game. I can understand nostalgia for the game you love, but critics need to stop bowing down to Link to the Past. This topic has confused and annoyed me a little while. Just hope you could talk about it. Thanks again. Love the show. And again, this is the reader question for
from Daniel Lean or Lane, L-E-I-N.
Now, I thought this was particularly heartwarming because this reminds me of Office Conversations with Mark Ryan Sally, who says, when he was playing Link to the Past, he hit a bush, and inside that bush was a bomb. And that bomb killed him, and he never played A Link to the Past again. So yeah, we all have bones to pick with very annoying parts of games that we all love. And I'm not a huge Link to the Past fan. I think it's a great game. It's not my favorite Zelda game, but I do think it's funny to find something like this. Like, there's something a little bit broken about it.
Yeah, well, Pear's a huge fan, but I was just going to simply say, look, everybody likes and hates games for different reasons. This is compelling information that Daniel's presented here, but I would say, this is the hard part, is you have to explain what you're talking about. What was overhyped about it? People say they love it, okay? So a lot of people love it. I can't tell if he actually hates it or anything.
No, I think
he hears so much about it, and he didn't find the magic in it.
So he's reacting to some comments on how, we said the original Majora's Mask had some issues in it, right? Like, there's a song that is super important to your enjoyment of the game, because the game is so hectic, can be so stressful.
Yes.
You need this one song,
which is the song that allows you to slow down time,
right? Okay. Like, it's and they made it more obvious in the 3DS re-release.
You can't find it. It's not a spoiler. Everybody out there needs to know that there's this song. It will ruin your game if you don't know that you can slow down the time.
Yeah,
you can do it from the very first time you turn on the game.
You must use that song, because otherwise the game will just not be fun, because you're halfway through collecting one of 8 items, and then you have to go back in time. You lose all the items. You got to do it all again. And we know that repetition isn't fun when it doesn't change, right? So it's a crucial item. I will say, yes, the Quake medallion, it was a little bit like, depending on how you played the game, you may have run into a wall like that. When I first played Link to the Past, I ran into a wall where, literally, where I I didn't know I had to light up this one torch and it would expand this room and let you through. Like, I just, for whatever reason, I blanked on using the lantern on this thing. And that was really frustrating. And so you needed help.
I had the same thing with the grappling hook moment in that. I just you can use these in the overworld on these pegs. Like, I just couldn't figure it out.
And there are areas like that. And, like, I actually had no problem with the Quake Medallion because I'm like, hey, what's that circle of stones? And threw something in it. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome, right? Like, and so I never had that kind of wall where I didn't know what to do next and there's this big world. I will say this game was 9 years before Majora's Mask, right? And so you do cut older games a little slack for being unintuitive. The same can be said for, you guys talked about Adventure, right? In a recent Game Scoop.
Yeah, and the top 100 games of the 80s Game Scoop, which is really great. A lot of those are Nintendo games.
Remember, like, as a kid, when I played Raiders of the Lost Ark on the Atari VCS, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I've seen the movie. I know you have to put the staff here and do, like, but you couldn't figure it out. And so games were definitely less forgiving. And you would hope that by the time like Majora's Mask came around, which followed the much more tweaked Ocarina of Time, they would have solved it. Ocarina of Time had some issues like that, where you had to meet a character at a certain time, right? Like in the evening or something. But the time didn't always flow in the different areas of the world, so you had to know to wait here and not there. And so all those things get cleaned up with re-releases, and that's great. There are always ways around them, and we totally hear you.
That's why I like re-releases, when they can fix some of those issues.
Absolutely.
I think it's so clever.
That said, A Link to the Past has the most fully realized and coherent overworld of any of these games. I love this game, and I will never forget the beginning of the game where you go outside, you're helpless, you can't do anything, you don't have a sword, and it's raining. Like, just the atmosphere of that game was so cool. Different at the time, and still when you play it, I still think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
and just to boil that down, like, you cannot forget, to Pear's point, like, games learn from each other, even in a year's time, if like not 3 to 6 months time, right? Patches in a game today can affect the game 6 months from now. Like, so everything that you're playing now in a compressed timeline has learned from each other, and that's sort of the point, right? Like, yeah, it's got its flaws, but that's a really good point that it's 9 years apart. Think about
you're saying patches. You're still hoping for Destiny getting a fair loot system. Huh?
No, that's not what I'm referencing.
So
I'm taking a break right now from Destiny. I'll be back.
We're going to wrap this up, and we have a few cool announcements for you. But first of all, our question of the week for next week is, what are the 7 essential 3DS games? Now, the context of this is kind of cool. We are rebooting our top 25 list, which we do frequently, and we actually came across a lot of 3DS games which weren't on our list, even though we just did the update, right before Smash Brothers came out. But there's some cool stuff from the fall. So we're updating those lists for you guys, and we want to hear what you think too. So let us know what your 7 essential 3DS games are, the ones that you want to keep in, one of those little Club Nintendo booklets. That
basically, I mean, there are all these new, like, people buying a 3DS for the first time with the XL, with the new 3DS coming out now, and they need a helping hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and remember, essential should mean, I would say, essential is not ranked top games, right? It's, if you have to get 7 things, what 7 things do you get?
Yeah, and you can recommend them to any audience, whether it be somebody who doesn't know Nintendo very well and should familiarize themselves with this franchise. So
7 copies of Fire Emblem Awakening is not permissible.
I agree, man. I was just in a meeting about top 3DS games, and even though we all love Fire Emblem, the people in that room were not so hot on it. I was
God,
like,
what is wrong with these
people?
My
favorite 3DS game.
Was Daniel in the meeting? Or
I can fire all of them,
I'll let you know after.
No, let me know who they are.
So we got a big announcement to make. We have a live Nintendo voice chat coming up.
Right.
Woohoo!
What date is that on, Per?
February 26th in our offices in San Francisco.
It's basically my
on
birthday.
625 2nd Street, right next to the Giants ballpark.
Oh, 625 2nd Street.
625 2nd Street.
Yeah, so what that means is that we are figuring out with our social team, who actually does a lot of events, and including First Friday. You can come visit IGN every first Friday of the month. If you are ever in San Francisco, come visit us. You'll meet all of us. We're all here.
Yeah.
We're usually in meetings and stuff like that, but we're here. So you can come.
Don't come on the last Friday. It's
not
good.
Not the last Friday.
First one's awesome.
Last Friday is terrifying. So our live NVC, though, is going to be recorded in our lunchroom. We've done this once before for episode 200, I believe. And we are going to be just recording live and come be a part of that audience. And we wanted to let you know this ahead of time to the listeners, because you guys should know about this first, so you can watch out for our invites, because there's going to be limited space. We work in a big office, but it's not the biggest place. So we want to make sure you guys have access first. So maybe even email us now and let us know your intentions.
Yeah, we want to make sure that our true fans come first and not the imposters. And like, nice to meet you, Peter Schneider. Hello, Daniel Claiborne.
And we can't possibly we have over 100,000 people that sometimes listen to this podcast, so we want to make sure we can include the most important ones.
That's right.
It'll be good.
You can even tweet at us as well.
I don't want to overpromise. It'll probably be terrible. We'll be just as disorganized as always, but at least
he's just trying to get people to not email.
Now he's worried about how many people are
inbox. We all get the emails.
No, but we'll bring our 3DSs too, so we can street pass.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll have to hire someone just to sit there, just clear out the street pass queue.
Yeah, so you'll be able to meet us, Jose Otero, who will be back in, I believe, 3 weeks. Until then, I hope to continue hosting Nintendo Voice Chat. This was episode, I don't know what number, but February 5th, 2015. Thanks so much for listening. I don't know what our numbers are up to, but I do know we're coming up an anniversary soon, so we'll let you know about that when we can. Thanks so much, Per. Thanks so much, Fran. I love the memories. I love being here talking about old games and new games. See you next time, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.